the best advice I could give a new peer supporter is self-care, because the situations that we are in a lot of times as peers are crisis situations or intense situations, to where you need to be able to have a way to be able to be okay, to prepare yourself to help the next person that's coming along. So developing a self-care plan, be it listening to music or reaching your higher power or meditating or whatever it is you need to be able to do, that's what I would give the advice for. Everything else will flow as long as you're in a good spot.
Make sure you're in a place where you are still maintaining your own self, taking care of yourself, maintaining your recovery. I think sometimes when people maybe are just starting off on the kind of towards recovery, and you want to give back and you want to help back, but you need to make sure that you're well enough and that you've been stable and that you're able to maintain your recovery when things come at you that can be hard and difficult.
So I do have a good recovery plan in place for myself, and I've been out the hospital since 2001. So I've been doing excellent in my recovery strength, and I have a lot of resources that I can relate to that can help me to keep myself grounded in reality. Church, I got my family, I got my work, I got my schools, and stuff like that keeps me grounded, so that I know that work stays at work and home stays at home. So wherever that work, I keep it at work, but I'll handle the situation, but I'm not gonna take it home with me or nothing like that, because everything has its proper place. So
I still have an illness, and I'm pretty well stabilized with meds and therapy and the self-care that I do. But that's the key right there, is self-care. And I know when I'm not ready to take on somebody else's stuff. I can feel it. It's just you end up with an instinct about it that, whoa, this is feeling a little too personal here, and I need to step back from this.
You can't go into your recovery without expecting some relapse at some point in time. You have to be mindful of that. But if you stay persistent in your recovery, you can prevent those relapses from happening.
For a peer supporter, stability is very, very important. If you are teetering on the edge, do not become a peer supporter, because you will be triggered and drugged down immediately. And I cannot stress that enough. Being a peer supporter is very difficult for the most stable of us. When I first started, I was in recovery. I'd been in recovery for a long time. I was back to work in non-mental health stuff, and then moved over to mental health stuff. And I really considered myself to be, the Superman of peer support. I was ready. And then one day I sat in a group and somebody told a story that was eerily similar to mine. And that's all it took to, make me just really rock back and forth a little bit. I was like, wow, my wife left me too. I had a job as well. I had a suicide plan. That you are where I was 5 years ago. And in that moment, I was where I was 5 years ago. Luckily, I was very stable. I relied on my training. I took a deep breath. And after that support group was over, I talked to another peer supporter, like Deidra. And I said, hey, this happened to me. I need a breather. I need to talk to somebody. And that person provided me peer support as well. So if I was less stable, if I was barely hanging on, that could have turned on a dime. And then we have people that need help, not being helped. And somebody that didn't need help now needs help. So, what's that old adage? If you can't swim, don't jump in to save somebody that's drowning, because now we have two people drowning. It's the same kind of thing. So you really have to ask yourself the hard questions. Am I stable enough to do this? And that's going to be different for everybody. And it's really not something that somebody else can answer for you.
We're there to give hope for these folks' futures. So be prepared to share your story and the positive things you're doing in your life. To follow a good recovery path. You'll need to be able to do that.
And I think for peers, we just have to know what our triggers are, and we have to find a coping mechanism that is healthy, that we can exhibit to others to help them. And we have to have our own wellness plan. If we don't have our own wellness toolbox, or we don't have our own resources to help us, or our own person to call or text, or resource to use, then we can't be effective to other peers. At least for me, that's the case. It's just, I know what I need to do, and it's okay. That's the other part. It's okay to break down. It's okay to have a moment of weakness.
I would say the biggest challenge for me is when I have felt triggered, by someone else's experience. You know what I mean? It's hard sometimes when people, come to us and they're sharing their stories, what they're going through, and sometimes it can be really familiar. It can put us kind of back to other places that maybe I've been before, and it's kind of like taking you back to the places that don't always feel so good. So sometimes that can be hard. It's hard to see other people going through it when it's painful because you've been through it yourself. So I think it kind of just plays on empathy. If you're really kind of understanding where someone's going through, and if it hits a little close to home, you have to be able to kind of maintain your boundaries and to stay professional. Sometimes I think it's a good idea if something is too much, it's good to be able to, maybe step away, take a break yourself, do some self-care. Sometimes we have, other staff that I'm working with, other peer supporters who can maybe touch base with for a minute, or just to kind of step out for a minute, take a few breaths and try to kind of ground myself, and so that I can be able to help that person, without feeling those similar feelings myself, because then, it's it's not that helpful if I'm, feeling like I'm back in a situation that didn't feel good to me at the time, So I think it's important to be able to remember to practice self-care.
You need to be very secure and confident in your recovery, because you have to be very good in your recovery and strong in your recovery to be able to help other individuals that are starting the first step in their recovery. So being the role model, being secure, and have my own skills that I have to be able to address those triggers as they come up. So you have them, but you can't let them show. You can show them after in the heat of the moment, and be able to use your own skills to, cope and be able to keep your life on the upbeat and happy and prosperous.
I have to set boundaries, and those are mine to set. You can't tell me, do this, do that, but I need to always have time for myself. And when I start feeling stressed, I got to take a day off. And generally what I do is I go outside and work in the garden 3 seasons of the year, play music, breathe, all these coping skills that we talk about and that maybe the people are learning. Use them. They work. And if you can remember that, you're really ahead of the game.
I don't really get re-traumatized too often, and I go out of my way to make sure I don't re-traumatize patients. One of the things that you have to be careful about is getting too much information about someone's trauma that they've been through, because when you get them talking about that, you are re-traumatizing them. And we need to stay away from that. We need to be there to help them with the recovery, not get them all upset about what they've gone through in their past.
To check with yourself, where are you in your own recovery? Are you far enough along that you feel that you could work with someone and it not affect your own mental health or your own substance use issue? And if you are, I suggest do it, absolutely. It's a wonderful training, wonderful program, and it gives you the power to help others change their lives. So go for it.